Hey, everybody, welcome to, what do we call this? Email Crushing It. Yes, that's right. I love that name. I forgot about it. I love it so much. Excited that you are here for our session. I'm super stoked to talk about our topic today. Brianne is here with us from Cupcakes and Kale Chips. And she and I were talking earlier this month about some stuff that she was doing. And I said, you got to talk to everybody. You got to tell everybody, because I just thought it was really smart and very, very timely. So I'm super excited to have her with us, and we're going to go to that in just a second. But before we get started, I want to share with you just a couple of thoughts, if you'll indulge me. There's been a lot of, let's call it freak out lately about Chat GPT and AI stuff. And Dawn just nodded. She's like, okay, I'm freaking out right now. And what's happening with the cookies and all those things, right? There's a lot happening in this space. So I'm not here to tell you that I know what's going to happen. I just don't. We know that in our business, the digital landscape, digital marketing stuff changes all the time. So I'm not here to really address that. What I have been thinking about is I've been asking myself, so let's say the stuff does change. And let's say that I know that stuff will change and it's going to impact my business. I could be wrong, and status quo is just fine with me too. But if I knew that something was happening or changing, then what would I do? And I was kind of asking myself, what would I do if I knew that I had, insert your number here. If I had 6 months of status quo before there was going to be some sort of change to my traffic or to the way I did business. And you're not going to be surprised. You shouldn't be surprised, but my answer is I would be doubling down on growing my email list as big as possible. I'm talking about aggressive growth. And there's all the reasons that you would expect, owning your audience, duh. But one of the big ones, and I want to talk to Brianne about this one as we get into this a little bit, is creating a real brand and truly connecting in a way that maybe you weren't doing before, that I wasn't doing before, and telling my story. Email can do that. Email does that in a fantastic way, in a way that we can't in a lot of other ways. And our topic today with the Forever series is absolutely on point, right? For building a brand. We're going to talk about that. Also, segmentation. I would be doing a lot more in the world of segmentation. I want to find out how can I serve my segments better, not just with content creation, but with existing content and using email to drive that. I'd be growing my list big because I want the ability to drive traffic wherever I need to. Let's say that a new platform emerges. That could happen. That has happened many times. If my list is much bigger, I can say, hey, everybody, we're going over here to the super duper network now. Okay. So that's an opportunity. I also think that, and this is what I'm hearing from many of you, that you're looking at new revenue streams just to protect ourselves or diversify our revenue from, should we take a dip in digital ads? Well, having a big list, doggone it, having a list is huge in terms of being able to sell something, right? And so if you're thinking about that down the future, building that list bigger now is absolutely crucial. The best time to, if you want to have a big list, the best time to start growing a list was, last year. But let's get going on what we've got going today. I also think that if the digital ads landscape changes, I think that newsletters will become much more important for advertisers. I think we'll see that. We're already starting to see that. There are quite a few companies that are emerging, and I should probably do a separate discussion just on that, about where people can make money with ads in their newsletters that weren't there before. You know about, many of you are on ConvertKit, so you already know about the ConvertKit sponsor network, which hasn't gone very, gone very big, very fast for food or crafts, but for other niches, they're starting to make some traction. That bodes well for maybe rolling over into some of these other niches as well. So selling ads in the newsletter, whether you use a network or a partner or you do it yourself, having a big list that is super targeted to a brand, that's going to be much, much more valuable. Anybody out there down in the chat, are you selling ads currently in your newsletter? I would love to know if you're having some success there. Additionally, I happen to know for a fact that all of the ad networks see email addresses as part of a first-party identity, so that we can get better RPMs in the case of cookie apocalypse, and if and when stuff changes. That's just scratching the surface, folks, of how why I would start growing my list bigger. I would start considering the amount of effort that I'm spending to grow my list. How do I address different segments? And it still goes back to the fundamental principles that I teach in the Email and Autopilot course. It's just applying that now per season, per category, per segment. Let's go. Let's get that. Let's start investing heavier into our list growth. I think that now might be the time for some of you to really have that wake-up call. So I just wanted to have that out there and discuss that right from the get-go. But it kind of segues into what we're talking about here, because one of the things that I think that we suffer from a little bit is in the content space is the whole branding opportunity. And I know that Brianne has deliberately thought through how she uses email, and I'd like to welcome Brianne in. Brianne, I'm so glad that you're here. I just wanted to, I don't know how many people know you, but you've been doing this for over a decade, right? Creating thousands of recipes. Cupcakes and Kale chips has been featured all over the place. BuzzFeed, Huffington Post, all over. And so just wanted to say welcome. Glad that you're here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Hopefully everyone can hear me.
You're good. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Awesome.
So give us an introduction, a brief introduction. Tell us about yourself, where you're from, your business, and why you decided to embrace email so much.
Okay, so my blog is cupcakesandkalechips.com, and I recognize some faces around here, and like Matt said, I've been doing this for 10 years and started as a more general food blog and kind of like dabbled in the gluten-free when I found out I had a gluten intolerance allergy, but didn't want to like fully commit to it. But in the past few years, I have made that shift to being fully a gluten-free food blog, but a little bit different than a lot of other ones that are out there, because a lot of the gluten-free food bloggers focus on helping people with baking, because that's one of the things that's so hard for us to find, and that's so different. You have to take different approaches for baking all different types of cakes and cookies and breads and things like that. I do that because I think that it's important to be able to celebrate and enjoy every occasion with your family. But I'm all about getting meals on the table every day, especially because I have a non-gluten-free family. So speaking of that family, I live in Maryland with my husband and my two boys who are 10 and 13, and they have never met a noodle they don't like or a piece of bread they don't like. So for them to be able to, eat things that I eat, and me to be able to have what I can, that, and them still to enjoy our meals together, it's definitely impacted the way I've taken my approach to my blog and my recipe development. So
that's awesome. And I think that narrowing your focus has probably helped you in a lot of different ways. You have been, I think you took the course a while back. It's been quite some Email and Autopilot, I mean. But I happen to know in talking with you, and both recently and previously, that you invest a lot of time and energy into your email marketing, right? So tell us a little bit about what you do and kind of what what your current setup is, why you decided to do what you're doing. Okay,
so I mean, a lot of what I do is a lot of the stuff that Matt's already touched on, owning your list, all of that type of stuff. With a lot of the changes with SEO and with social media algorithms versus when I started 10 years ago, where it was like, today I went to blah, 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 and here's a recipe for a hamburger. I mean, you can't do that anymore. But I also have felt that it's important to have a bit of a personality, especially for my type of blog where, I'm trying to communicate a certain message. And I'm trying to show people, open up my kitchen to everybody and how they can use that same approach in their own life. And I feel like email is my best place to do that. I have a tendency to write and talk like forever, but every time I write an email, then I go back and look at it and I edit it down. And I really feel like I've successfully found a way to be concise, but also to communicate, these little tips and these little, here's what I do, here's how I serve this. So, I think it allows me to differentiate myself a little bit from other gluten-free food bloggers, and why, not that they shouldn't follow those people. What they do, yes, like I said, I do some, I provide the baking recipes, but I consider other people the true experts. But I provide something a little bit different that I think complements what other people do. And so I find ways to work that into all of my emails. So I'm currently working, based on my recent discussion with Matt, like where I'm sort of updating and revamping my whole lead magnet list growth strategy, taking what I've already done and expanding upon it. But I feel like my sending of emails is.
Oh, we lost you, Brianne. Uh-oh, we lost your audio.
Lost my audio.
There you are, you're back.
Okay. So yes, I'm working on optimizing the list growth, but like my sending of emails is truly down to a science. So we're going to put aside, I do have one monthly email. I do kind of like a monthly recap, and you'd be surprised, even though people have already seen every recipe that's in that monthly recap email, I get a ton of clicks on that. So I'm going to keep doing it. But I send 3 emails a week. So I publish 2 new recipes every week. So I send those out in one email. I send a weekly newsletter that has things that are seasonal. And then of course I send my Forever series email.
Did you always do 3, or did you start out with a few?
No, I started with just a weekly newsletter. And then I can't remember what order I did it, adding the Forever series and then adding the new recipe email. I was for a while doing an RSS, but I just didn't like how that looked. And again, with like the whole putting a little bit of personality into it, when it just sends out an RSS, I didn't get great clicks on them either. So that's kind of why I sort of tweaked that into sending out. I do send that separate email with the 2 new recipes. I found that when I included the new recipes in my seasonal newsletter, they kind of got lost. Like I wanted to really highlight those new recipes and make sure they got the clicks shortly after they were published.
Sure.
So it really worked out well to separate them out.
I think that's an important point. I just want to reiterate that for many of you, depending on your niche, but many of you have a niche where you could be sending more emails than you are. So, and I've been pressing this a little bit harder than I have in the past with clients. Is like, just add 1 more per week, see what happens. And I'm here to tell you, it will not change. You will not have massive unsubscribes. You will not irritate people. You provide amazing value, great content, and people care about the stuff you have going on. You'll just enjoy the additional clicks.
I'm somebody who regularly scrubs my list too. And I get unsubscribes, but it's not like a crazy amount from sending 3 a week. And I feel like with my email list, I want those to be the people that are my truest, most raving fan audience. Like I want the people who want my emails 3 times a week on my list.
Well, love it. Okay, let's talk about your Forever series. What did it used to be like? And because one of the things that got us talking here was that you're like, I revamped it. So tell us about the revamping.
Okay, so I will say it's a lot of work. Luckily, I have a spectacular VA, but it is worth taking the time to put together the Forever series. It took a while. We split it out a little bit, but I wrote 2 years worth of Forever sequence emails.
Wow.
So on that, so 1 a week, so 104-ish.
Nice.
And so what it initially looked like was I sort of rotated between like the different topics. So it was meal ideas, lunchbox ideas, and snack ideas, because that was a heavy emphasis for me at the time. When I started writing the very, very, very first batch of the Forever sequence series email, I wasn't fully committed to the gluten-free blogger, so I was still putting in some of those other recipes. And then the third thing was desserts. And so I rotated through those, and I built out, like I said, 2 years worth of those emails. And then we got to the end of 2 years, and I was like, you know what? I put in all this time, but I can do better. So the one thing was that I only was sending it to people who opted into it. For some, I don't even, this was like 2.5 years ago now. So I don't even remember why, but I was only sending it to a subset of my list. And I said, well, everybody should be getting this, you know? And then the second thing was, I knew that they weren't the best emails. I was seeing much better, as I've sort of tweaked my formatting on my weekly emails, I was seeing much better click rates on my newsletter and my new recipe emails. And the Forever sequence wasn't exactly formatted the same way. Plus, like I said, I went full on gluten-free, and I felt that I had an opportunity to better communicate my mission, my message, and even tweak the recipes that were in there to align with that a little bit better. So we just decided, again, my VA is amazing. And so she helps me not only with like executing these things, but with some strategy things. We decided that we should take a look at each and every email in the Forever sequence. And so what we did is she pulled the data for the open rates, the click rates. Each email, some emails I featured with photos, 3 recipes, some I just featured 1, some had after that featured recipe, a list of links. Sorry, did I lose you guys, or are you still hear me?
We could hear you. You were,
Okay.
you froze, but we could hear you.
All right. So what we did was looked at the data for each one, saw that in general, I was doing better with emails that had 1 or maybe 2 recipes with a photo, as opposed to the 3 and the list of links. All that took time to put in there, and they weren't getting a lot of clicks. So we looked at each email, we looked at if it had a low open rate and a low click rate, delete it, just take it out. If it had a low open rate, but then a lot of people were clicking on the content in there, we just updated the subject line. And then if it had a high open but a low click rate, we looked at whether rewriting it would help, streamlining it. For all of the emails, we streamlined, we condensed things down, we made them shorter, we made the copy more effective. But if it had a high open and a low click rate, and it just seemed like a lost cause, like it wasn't really central to what I was trying to share with my audience, that type of thing. It was a really old recipe. It maybe wasn't one of my favorite recipes, that type of thing. Then we deleted that. So what we then did to fill in the gap and still keep it 2 years was we also looked at the new recipe emails and the weekly newsletters that I sent out over the past couple of years. And out of there, pulled out any recipes that got a lot of clicks. And we've dropped those back in, and we've started rewriting or writing those up. I actually still have to review a few of those, but basically that's what we did, is we dropped them into the end of the sequence. And so we will see how those perform now. Figuring they should go at the end, because people will have already will have seen them, maybe not recently, but they're ones that have been sent out within the past couple of years. So let's put them at the end so that there's that little bit of time lag in between when they last saw it.
Love it. So that was a lot of work to do that, but some of them, I'm sure, like if you were to advise somebody, there's probably some low-hanging fruit in there. Yes?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I said, we pulled out, and I mean, all of us have different open rates and click rates. So I'm not going to tell you necessarily my threshold, because, like everyone will be different, but we took a certain threshold. And if things were below that for open and click, we were like, just get them out, like just delete them right away. So that made it really the ones that were kind of like on the borderline, maybe we thought about a little bit more, what could we do to make it a little bit better? But if you're just looking at data, I'm a scientist by background. I have a degree in chemical engineering. So if you put data in front of me and it's really clear, then I'm just going to get rid of it.
Okay, so just a question just a clarifying question. Your Forever series is not based off of any calendar date. These are evergreen emails that go
Yes,
in the order that that a subscriber signed up. They're getting 1, 2, 3, 4, regardless of season and time of year and all that.
absolutely, absolutely. So it doesn't include, you know, very, very Christmassy cookies
Right.
or, you know, anything that's super, super seasonal.
That's your weekly newsletter, as you
Yeah.
mentioned it. Right. Okay, good. All right. So a couple of things that jumped out at me when you were talking about this. I'm going to guess that like that deleting the low open and low click rate. I see that too. When I'm looking at somebody's, I'll go back and look at a client's Forever series or just their emails in general. You can kind of tell low open means your subject line didn't grab them, and low clicks can be pulled down because they are, depending on your platform, most of them make it a function of opens, right? It's like your click rate is a percentage of the total recipients.
Mhm.
So your low click rate, so if you have low click, low open, low click, and that's not on brand anymore, or you look at it and it's just a one recipe or one article, and you're just like, I think deleting is, trimming those back is a very cathartic kind of exercise to a degree. It's a little painful, but
And we did one level, like we added a column in the spreadsheet with a little extra calculation. So if there were 3 featured recipes, we would divide the total clicks by the 3, just as an average. I mean, I know sometimes you would get maybe just pulling out random numbers, like if you had 3 emails or 3 recipes in there, one could get 50 clicks and one could get 2. So averaging it doesn't mean a whole lot, but it can give you a little bit of guidance, and it would show us like like I said, the 1 recipe emails were getting way more clicks per recipe, if you will, than the 3 recipe emails.
okay, cool. And I think that you have to look at that in terms of and test that. I think that's what everybody is going to be a little bit different in your approach. Some people will actually get more clicks with a roundup style. Some people will get more clicks without images. The images, for some reason, it's not that they turn them off, but it's the curiosity factor without the image sometimes works. So people always ask me, should I do single or images or what?
I've tested without images in the past and I do better with them, but I've heard of people say the exact opposite. Now, granted, like I said, I do that monthly recap where I just put a bulleted list and I put the name of the recipe, link to it, and put like a little phrase blurb about it. And that gets great clicks. But then other than that particular monthly email, my regular weekly emails, no, when I didn't put photos, it definitely went down.
All the more reason why what you're doing is so important. Test and revisit. Just because Matt Mullen had some example in his course that looked a certain way doesn't mean yours need to look the same way. Just because Brianne's doesn't work a certain way doesn't mean yours won't. So test and revisit. Now, I believe we didn't really talk about this, but I believe that you have some things that you might be able to show us. Yes?
Sure.
No?
Yep. So
Okay.
what I can give you, let me give you a little bit of a quick, just like I'll show you some of the good emails, but just to give you a quick overview of like what my success rate has been with doing this. So mind you, some subset of these people have already gotten these emails or some form of these emails before, but my open rate from the first time I sent everything around was about 31%. And the second one, I started this new round of it about 3 months ago, and it's at a 47% open rate. Mind you, I've done a lot of scrubbing of my list and things like that. So I can't say things are apples to apples, but I mean, I think with that amount of a change, it definitely shows something. To me, it signifies something. My click rate is a little bit lower, but again, I was only sending it initially to people who opted into it as opposed to the entire list. So I think you're going to see, that can happen just because of throwing it out to way more people as opposed to people who said, yes, I want to get this email.
We didn't talk about this, and I need to do an entirely separate thing about this, but a metric that you might all start looking at is your clicks per subscriber.
Mhm.
Okay, because your click rate will only be how many unique clickers are there?
Yeah.
Clicks per subscriber can go way up and make you more money if you get them to click multiple things. Like, for example, your monthly recap with the bullets. It's possible that because of the mysterious nature of those, no images, you could click on, somebody might be clicking multiples. So you would have to do math. Shelly asked, how do you get that? Well, you're going to get the click rate, which your click rate is going to be unique clickers, divided by total recipients. Your total, then you're going to have a total clicks number, and you could do what is it? Total clicks divided by number of unique clickers. Does that make sense? I didn't have a slide prepared for that. I should probably, if you need to, go back and watch the replay on this if you need to slow it down for the math. But the gist of it is, how can I figure out if a subscriber, if this email, if somebody's clicking one time or they're clicking 2 times, because that's a very valuable metric too, because your click rate by itself may not tell the entire story.
Mhm.
All right, sorry.
I was even looking a little bit at I was doing some math for myself last night, rechecking some things. And one thing that I was looking at, if you go into the reports, for each email, it'll show you like how many people it's been sent to. Because again, every single one has a different number of senders or sends because of people starting at the beginning versus the end and when people unsubscribe and all of that. So, but then you have to go into each individual email and you can click on the thing that says clicks and it'll tell you how many total clicks that email has gotten.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. All right, so what do you got to show us?
All right, let me figure out what I'm sharing here. It looks like I have to do each one individually. So of the ones that I've resent, all right, the dinner my kids request the most. That is my highest open rate. So again, knowing I have probably a lot of parents on my list, I think that that's going to be one that, oh no, I'm sorry, this isn't best open. This is best click rate, but still. So just to give you an idea, what I'm talking about, me sharing my message. So I give a little bit of it, like, here's a little bit of personality. When I asked my kids, what's their favorite dinner, their first answer was boxed macaroni and cheese. Gee, thanks. So I had to specify what's their favorite dinner that I make. And I tell them, we eat it twice a month. It's a busy weeknight staple. But then I go into, this has become popular from keto diets. So a lot of people will eat it on its own or with cauliflower rice. But we like to pile it over rice or my favorite gluten-free ramen noodles, and then I say, even in the post, I give you even more suggestions. So that's, again, going to, here's my different ways of serving it that can work for your family if you have multiple preferences and diets and things like that.
Cool. Love it.
All right. So I guess, let me try this again. I noticed right as I was clicking yes that I can actually shift and open up multiple windows. So let me do that. Let's see how this works. All right.
There you go.
So now I'm going to show that. We'll talk about that one later. Okay. So it makes no sense. That's my best open rate. So I think that's one of those like curiosity.
Yeah.
I do a really big mix of subject lines, and I wouldn't say one style consistently works best over the other. Sometimes I have one subject line that says literally just the world's best lasagna, and that's the subject line, and it does pretty well. But then this one, I do that whole like, let's be cryptic. It makes no sense. And so this one definitely has my best open rate with a decent click rate. Like, it's not that it's, I'm drawing people in and then they're like, oh, that's not something I'm interested in. So and I show this is my focus of this is naturally gluten-free. You don't have to buy special ingredients. So again, another opportunity to share my approach, my branding, that type of thing. And then one that I think is kind of a mix of both. So kind of very good open, very good click rate is the curiosity, and then it delivers what people want. So not your mama's chicken salad. So not quite as like, cryptic as the other one. It makes no sense, but
Yeah.
it gets people like, okay, I've had a lot of chicken salad. What's up with this chicken salad? And so then this is another one of my things. I'm not a fan. I've always said I'm not a fan of mayo. I don't like mayo. So here's my Greek yogurt chicken salads. And then it has, this one you'll see has 2. And this is my formatting for basically all my emails. Sometimes I put a title up top, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just put the button. That kind of goes back and forth. And then I put the photo, I put the button, a little bit of a blurb about it. Same thing, photo, button, quick little blurb. And then here we go. One of my things that I like to do if I make something like this where my kids are going to want it on regular bread, well, yeah, they can have it on regular bread, but there's a lot of different ways you can serve it. You can make gluten-free burger buns. You can even do lettuce wraps, blah, blah, blah. So
All right,
that's kind of 3 like that kind of hit, like I said, the best click, the best open, and then one that's, I think, the right balance between both.
All right, Marjorie is hungry and wants to know if cornbread is near the beginning of your series, and Amy wants to know if those are affiliate links.
Affiliate links.
Must not be if you don't know.
I don't know. I mean, these are all she's talking about, these are actually recipes on my site. So no, they aren't affiliate links because they go back to my site. I will occasionally, well, no, I mean, in emails, you can't link directly to a product, but I do have a few, like I have a couple of emails that are about air fryer recipes. So I link to a shop page on, Amazon shop page that has my favorite kitchen appliances.
Okay.
I honestly don't do great with affiliates, so I don't put it in all the time. I kind of pick and choose where to do it.
Well, clearly the data-driven approach is the way to go. And especially if you've been doing this for a while, now you've got a significant amount of data to roll with. I want to spend a couple of minutes on something else you do for new subscribers. It's kind of your welcome hack that I touched on. But before we leave the Forever series, then you want to wrap it up and put a nice little bow on it?
Sure. I mean, I will say, like, putting together that many emails, it is definitely a lot of work. I did this all before there were, that much available in the way of AI writing tools. So, Chat GPT might be a good way to make this a little bit quicker of a process.
Sure.
But it's definitely worth it. And I think that with having it be a 2-year Forever sequence is that it doesn't feel daunting, like to revisit it every couple of years. And it's long enough that nobody's going to remember 2 years later that email that you sent. So
Right.
There's no reason, if you invest this much time, there's no reason you can't keep redoing it. I mean, yeah, I'll keep kicking out, ones that don't perform well. I'm going to keep creating new content. So there is an opportunity to add that in. And so it gives it the whole series a little bit of a refresh, a little bit of a facelift, a little bit of a new look, but it's not going to be that same effort as in the beginning. So definitely take the time to do it. I will say it's definitely worth it.
I want to piggyback on that and throw in a couple of thoughts related to if Forever series tips things that I've adjusted to be doing lately. Along the branding perspective, do not lose sight, and this next thing that Brianne's going to show us fits into this. Don't lose sight of the fact that this is your opportunity to create a journey. It isn't about, I happen to have this recipe, I happen to have this article. If you do this well, and you think through the journey, imagine somebody doesn't know you, comes into your store thanks to a quick start guide or Well, Google brought them to the store and they come into they finish the quick start guide. They're still kind of like, okay, that was good. Now what? And they see their store is just full of shelves of stuff. You put your arm around their shoulder and say, look, this is the most important thing. That's what you're doing with the Forever series. This is the next thing. This is the next thing. If you had one email subscriber and you had to invite that person to see the right stuff in the right order, you can do that with the Forever series. So at least your first 10, come on, make those like really thought through. Make them be super valuable. We shouldn't just throw this stuff together. Now, something is better than nothing in most cases. But if you can take the time to stop and think about it, you'll be doing you'll be doing what most of your competitors are not doing. They're not creating that brand journey, and you can stand out there. Additionally, and kind of last point on this is that if you have a lot of content and you're tired of writing emails, a Forever series, some people go the other way with this, but a Forever series, you can add in a second Forever series per week. You don't have to be limited to one. The whole point of creating evergreen series is that it just sends for you in the order that you want. So if you have a big, long, massive Forever series, you might even consider, well, I've got 2 years worth of stuff. I'm not saying Brianne to do this, but you could. Maybe I take this and I'm going to start sending 2 a week. I have a lot of content. This will save me some time to get it out in front of people. So be creative with your Forever series. That's all, and strategic. Now, the thing that I actually started us talking is that I signed up for one of Brianne's quick start guides at one point, and I got an hour later or something like that, after I got the first email, I got this email from her, and I was like, wait a second, what is this? And so Brianne, I'm going to leave it there and let you explain what this is, why you like it, and why you decided to do it.
Okay, so I have 2 like slight disclaimers on this. One is giving credit where credit is due. So this was from Monica Snyder from Birdsong. So she teaches email marketing, focusing definitely more on sales, a lot of like B2B stuff. I've gone through it, and I've taken tidbits from her, and I know that it works well for some other people. Not all of it works for me, but this was one of those like nuggets that I pulled out that worked, I think works for me, but I know my other caveat is how I can make it work better. So 3 hours after I send the freebie, the lead magnet, the first email and the quick start guide, whatever it is, because I have both. I have quick start guides and I have just like 1 email freebie things, is sending this email with literally just the subject, did you get my email? And that kind of, people get curious. It's another one of those sparking curiosities. Did you get wait, who are you? Why do you want to know if I got your email? And so then I just, here I am again. I sent you this freebie quick start guide email, and I want to make sure you got it. So click reply, let me know I've sent it to the right place. So I think that there are a couple of things about this. So one is like, you're sort of training your reader to engage with you like right from the get-go, because all you want to know is, did they get it? So people are more likely to reply to something where all they have to do is be like, yeah, I got it, thanks, than something that's like more involved, where they have to think about what their question is or their answer is or whatever. They can just be like, yeah, I got it. Or they can also say no, which can help you. You can reply and say, hey, did you check your spam? Make sure you add this email address to your sender, acceptable senders, whatever list. All of that, you can even, sometimes it's even helped me like troubleshoot, like if I've had a glitch in something, so it can actually help you. And then, there's the whole thing with like email servers marking you as spam and things like that. So if the email servers are seeing that your subscribers are responding to this, one of your first couple of emails right away, it can kind of help you be more likely to end up in their inbox as opposed to in their spam folder. The other thing too, so what I did was I customized, personalized what her idea was. And I do also add, not everybody does this, but I do also add a question into mine related to whatever that particular lead magnet is about. So these top 10 summer meals, I kind of align this with my whole meal planning strategy. So I do in your reply, tell me your single biggest struggle with getting dinner on the table, because it kind of fits in with my menu planning, meal planning strategy. But one for smoothies, it'll be like, what is your favorite? These were my favorite smoothies. Which one is your favorite? Or what is your favorite? Something along those lines. And if they want to reply, they can.
So you change it up based off of.
Yeah, I do. I switch it. And then some that are like gluten-free essentials, what's been the hardest thing for you since you went gluten-free, whatever. And you can really find things that are pain points for your audience. That being said, I think it would be better if I were even better about replying to all of them. I'm not always the best about it because, only so much time in the day. But the other thing I'm working with my VA on is setting up like autoresponders and things to flag emails that I should respond to, versus the people that just say, yeah, I got it. Well, if they just say, yeah, I got it, I don't necessarily need to reply. If I could just acknowledge that would be great. If they do have a very specific question or they're really looking for something, I'd like to be able to flag that. So that's how I want to take this, that I think is a good thing, and make it even better.
Right. Do you get a lot of replies to this?
Yeah, I mean, I have not pulled data on it to see like what percentage of people reply, but I mean, I get them in my inbox every single day.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the answer. Hey, and I want to reiterate that. So one of the things that caught my eye on this is it was the flip of what I used to do. So in fact, those of you who've been with me a long time, email and autopilot course may have, you may remember that the first email in the quick start guide was kind of, hey, tomorrow I'm going to start sending you your great stuff. But for now, ask me, or answer me this. And then it was, a question like this. And the reason for that is I wanted that engagement. I wanted to learn from the audience. But then I was like, man, I need to get them in today's competitive world. I need them to engage with the content right away. And, and so I switched. I went away from that in most of my teachings. And then this just brought it full circle back to stuff that I love about this. And I was like, well, you could do both. Why wasn't I doing this? You could do this an hour or two later. And when she sent it, I wasn't annoyed by it. And I'm sure it's different depending on your niche and however you message this. But the point was, it allowed Brianne to tell me a little bit more about her and to feel like a real person, and that there was going to be engagement. I love that training people to engage, that you're there, that you're a real person, and that you want to hear from them. One more point on that, the deliverability thing that she's talking about, that's absolutely the key. It's not about anymore, you don't go to spam folder if you have images, or if you use the wrong subject line, or if you use the word free in anything. That's not a thing anymore. It's 100% dependent on your reputation as a sender. So what does Google and Hotmail and all those know? They only know, does anybody hit reply on this thing? Do they actually open this thing and then engage? Because if they do, then they're like, okay, cool. Right? And so it's a signal to them, yeah, people are talking. People don't hit reply to Banana Republic's emails, but they hit reply to grandma's emails. So they want to deliver grandma's emails. So if we can get them to reply, it's a boon for our deliverability. Love it, Brianne. Great stuff. Any other thoughts on this before we leave it? All right. Listen, Brianne, did I miss anything that you're doing awesome in your email that you want to talk about before we sign off and go have Memorial Day or wherever we are in the world? Have a great weekend.
I don't know if I just was looking at the chat, and some people were asking about deleting or publishing or unpublishing emails in a forever series. The only thing I want to say, like caveat, so we actually have copied all of the emails into a whole new sequence. And part of that was because, like I said, with only having a subset of my list tagged to be on that sequence, I wanted to start everybody fresh at the same spot. And I was like, okay, there's going to be some fraction of people who are going to get like semi-duplicate emails pretty quickly. But in my particular situation, we kind of weighed the pros and cons and decided that this was going to be the cleaner way for us to do it. but we have in the middle, like we did an evaluation like a few months in the first time around and did look at if there were some that were just performing terribly and made a couple tweaks to like subject lines and stuff like that. But and you can turn them off and turn them on within the sequence. You can move them around and all of that. You can delete something in the series. It doesn't really hurt it at all. Just in this particular case, we decided to start it fresh.
Chris asks how you personally are growing your list.
How am I personally growing my list? So like I said, I'm kind of in the midst of sort of refreshing and updating it. I have, like Matt has talked about in a lot of his trainings and stuff like that, I do have some category specific lead magnets on a couple of different categories that need a revamp, and I'm going to add to those. But what actually works best for me personally is I started using ebooks like with one email lead magnets. And again, refreshing all this a little bit, but seasonal. Here's my top 10 spring dinners. Here's my top 10 summer dinners. Here's my top 10 fall dinners. Here's my top 10 winter dinners. And I turn those on and off over the course of the year. And those actually do the best for me. I actually turned off the spring one and turned on, I have like, 4th of July, Memorial Day patriotic set of recipes, and does even not quite as well as the spring summer dinners, but it does pretty well. So we're kind of doing a revamp of setting up seasonal to holiday and setting a schedule. And I use ConvertBox for my pop-ups, that those like one email series type things are going to be my like main default on almost all of my sites, all of my pages, I should say, posts. And then we're going to add in a few more category specific ones as we go through the revamp process. But that's what happens to work for me. I mean, I know everybody is very different there, but for some reason, the people that come to my site like those seasonal ones.
Any other tech, like, because you mentioned ConvertBox, are you doing, a Slickstream or Spotlight Subscribe or any of those?
I have my Spotlight Subscribe on with Mediavine, and that is my 1 week meal plan jumpstart. But I had turned off ConvertBox for a while and was just doing the meal plan jumpstart, and I tried some of the seasonal ones on the Spotlight Subscribe. I don't know, it doesn't do that great for me, but I have it there just because it can't hurt to grab the people on that, for the whole cookie apocalypse. It can't hurt to grab people if they want to opt in for it, but it's not been the best for me.
Right. I threw the link for ConvertBox in there. It's affiliate link. If anybody's interested in learning more about what Brianne is using, go check that out. And
yeah, I love ConvertBox. It really is easy to use. I like the scheduling feature. I like the stats, all of that.
The A/B testing is my favorite.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A/B testing is great.
So I have a tutorial on that. That's going to be right for some of you and not all of you, but go check it out. All right. Any last questions for Brianne before we go make some hot dogs or whatever we're, quinoa dogs, whatever we're making? Y'all are awesome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, everyone.
If you have any topics that you'd like me to cover for a future email crushing it, let me know. Send me an email. And Brianne, thanks again. You're awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for everything.
Okay, everybody. Have a great weekend.